Good morning. I'm Jim Rhodes, and our host, Robert Arthur, and I are here this beautiful morning along with Donna, who is valiant at getting up early and joining us, and we thank her very much. And all those who may be viewing this later, we invite all to come at this early hour. For me, it's 6:30 a.m. where I live, and I find that this morning time is a clarity of my thoughts and more in tune right here in the heart with any personal inspiration I can get or revelation. I would even move up to that word. In fact, I was awakened a whole hour earlier than usual, which is 6. I got up at 5 just because of that cause and kind of changed up things that I was about to present. And as we usually do, we would like to invite our partner in our efforts to join us, and that's of course the Lord. And so I would ask Robert if he would be willing to please offer that prayer.
Yes, let me quiet this. Okay, there we go. Dear Father, thanks for watching over us. Thanks for pouring all these blessings into our life. Help us be eternally grateful every minute of every day, and help us breathe in servant leadership and help us serve others at the highest level that you made us to be. And this morning, help us become really crystal clear at discovering and uncovering what other people, how we can serve them, what they're going through, and just help bring us clarity, wisdom, and once again, help us live every moment of every day in gratitude. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Robert, thank you for that beautiful invitation to the Lord to join us in our business as well as our lives. And what we are discussing and have been discussing is the art of connection. And in that art of connection is the actual mastering of the art of asking compelling questions. And today, we're going to share a story. I would like to share a story. And it's first of all, what is a compelling question? Just a moment on that one. And a preamble to that one, we practice on the ability. Our success, in my opinion, or our goals will be equal to our why. So I'm going to help us, at least help myself, discover more deeply my why am I doing what I am doing? What and how does my why, and why would it equal my success and my goals? An activity that I would often put a group of youth of up to 300 youth at one time through was an activity which involved asking them before the activity started what they were willing to die for. And they would have to write on a piece of paper if there was something they were willing to die for, what it was. And it was usually their family or a loved one, something of great significance. And then more difficult, I asked them what they were willing to live for. And it was harder for them to figure that out than it was what they were willing to die for. And what you're willing to live for was illustrated by an army. This was a small army in history that kept being overrun by stronger armies and being captive. And finally, they threw off their captives and decided to build an army that couldn't be defeated. Even though their numbers were small, they came up with a compelling reason that they asked themselves every time they went into battle, what am I willing to die for? And they won every single battle they were engaged in from that time forward against incredible odds of more than 2 or 3 to 1. And part of the secret was their why was so big, they couldn't lose. And it was simple. The army, the smaller army, took their family with them into the battle. So behind every warrior was their wife and their children. Yes, their wife and children were armed, but do you think the man at the front of their family was going to lose in any way, shape, or form and let anyone through that battle line or that front line to get to their family? And they fought beyond courage, and they won. Now, this little army has taught us a lesson. The why behind what we're doing. How deep is our why? What are we in this for? Are we in this for ourselves? Do we believe we're worth the good health we're trying to achieve by using these incredible products? Hopefully, yes. Do we believe that these incredible products can change the lives of others? More than hopefully, yes. Are we absolutely sure enough that we were willing to, yes, live for it? I think an example that I really, truly love of how to ask an inspired question, and by the way, an inspired or compelling question, one that can make someone think and feel deeply about the question, and maybe even pause after the question is asked. It's an invitation to discover or uncover a truth, then evaluate it of how it can change or bless their life. The question we're asking. Now, why do we invite the Holy Spirit to be here with us at the beginning? What is that invitation for? When we're talking with people, we're inviting them to join us and find their why. We're inviting them to join us and add to our ability to succeed and their ability to succeed. And there's a great example in John chapter 21, 15 through 17 in the New Testament of one of the most powerful questions that Jesus could have asked Peter. And I'll just read the whole thing, those 3 verses, but I want you to understand why the Lord would have asked Peter this in the first place when he already knew the answer. Since he knew the answer, he hoped that Peter would give him, and I think he knew he would. Repeating this question 3 times to Peter drove it home to Peter, because you see, the Lord already knew what he was asking Peter was to put his life on the line, and ultimately Peter would give his life for the answer he gave the Lord. And this is what it says. And this was shortly after the resurrected Christ had visited and sat with the apostles. And Peter, of course, was there. And it says, so when they had dined, and yes, Christ dined with them, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these, meaning anything else out in the world? He said unto him, yea, Lord. This is Peter's answer. Thou knowest I love thee. Then Christ said unto him, feed my lambs. In other words, teach, share what I've given you. And then he said to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Now Peter had just answered this, and he asked a second time. He said unto him, yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. And then the Lord said again, he saith unto him, feed my sheep. In other words, Give them what I've given you and share it with them. Teach them what I've taught you. And then he said unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? At this point, poor Peter, third time, asked the same question. He had already answered it twice as honestly as he could. Peter was grieved, it says, the next sentence, because he said unto him the third time, lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. And Jesus simply repeated and saith unto him, feed my sheep. Now, knowing that if Peter did what he requested to teach, that it would ultimately cost his life, meaning Peter, he was asking, what are you willing to die for? What are you willing to die for? What are you willing to live for? There is a awesome story of Abraham Lincoln looking for a general to lead his army, the Union, against the South and Robert E. Lee, the leader. And when he was interviewing generals that he would send out to win a cause, he interviewed each one of them. And the first one he interviewed, and he did this with each one, was General Sherman, a very well-trained, an extremely well-trained general. And he said, are you willing to do whatever it takes to win? Because this is what I promise, General. More men. You'll have equipment. Have more powder. Will you do what it takes? Well, of course, Sherman said, yes, of course I will. I've been trained in this. I do it. And he was sent with the largest army ever against a small little army. Unfortunately, when he got there, Sherman hesitated. Had he gone immediately and overcome the smaller army, which he had the manpower and all of the equipment to do so, rather than hesitate and say, oh, golly, it means we'll lose some of our men. Some of our people will be killed in this battle. I'll wait. And he kept getting ready to get ready. And then he waited some more, and he got ready to get ready. And he waited some more. And all of this time, Lee, with the smaller army, was deploying his little army in various places to get around and sneak and do what was needed. And Lee wiped out Sherman's army, the biggest defeat, losing more people and causing the war not to be shortened, and the fewest people needing to die for this cause of the North. So when he then, meaning Lincoln, brought Sherman in, he said, obviously you didn't get it done. I'm replacing you. And of course he went through 2 or 3 more generals that still hesitated until he found Grant. And Grant, of course, is credited for winning the most decisive and final victory of the Battle of Gettysburg. But there was a little unsung hero in this whole story. And that little unsung hero was Colin Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. And this little never has been to war person who didn't study, other than he was a teacher, I believe, and of history of all things, if I recall the story right. And he was put in charge of a small brigade of maybe 300. But he was given one of the most difficult jobs, and that was to protect the far left side of the front of the army so that the South could not get behind them and come up behind Grant and obviously take them out before the Battle of Gettysburg took place. And it's called a rear flank movement. And it's called actually the most famous counterattack of the whole Civil War, of what this good commander Chamberlain was able to do. You see, the South put one of their strongest and overpowering, best prepared set of army to go up against Chamberlain, knowing that if they could get past him, they could do that big attack from behind and obviously even win this battle. And Chamberlain was outnumbered, but he was inspired because he asked himself, am I willing to die for this cause? And he transmitted that to every one of his small force. And they got behind a little teeny picket line of rocks, literally, to defend themselves because they had the high country. And as the South marched up, and there were countless numbers of them, they began, of course, picking off the South until finally the South retreated. But then they came back with more force. But each time they whittled down until there were only 50, I recall, in Chamberlain's army, in his little force. And at this point, something crazy had happened. They had ran out of ammunition. There were no more bullets in their guns. There was no way to repel the advancing army, which had not given up. And Chamberlain made a decision. Every one of the 50 said, let's retreat, we've lost. And Chamberlain said, no, we don't retreat. Put your bayonets on your guns. We're going to charge. And this little band of 50 put on their bayonets with no bullets in their guns and came charging down the hill. And the much larger Southern army simply dropped their weapons and put their hands in the air because they obviously thought that the North had got reinforced and it was a hopeless cause, and they surrendered to an army with no bullets. And that stopped that Southern back attack that could have possibly lost the Gettysburg War, which finalized this major war. I believe that if each of us can be like Chamberlain and have our why that big, there's no way of us not being able to ask the right question. And here's why. If our why is big enough, the how will show up. It will simply show up in our spirit, in our mind. And once we have found it, we can utilize it every time we talk with someone. And every time we ask that inspired question or that compelling question, we can get an answer back that will make the difference. And I'm going to ask Donna this. Do you believe, and I know, Donna, I'm putting you on the spot. I hope you're there.
Okay.
Okay. That possibly even this very day, there have been people that will be praying for an answer for their health.
Yes.
Do you believe that we might have some great tools with these inspired products that could be the answer to their prayers?
I do.
I do too. In fact, my knowledge of the ingredients of these products makes my answer to that one even that much firmer. Do you believe that there may be people out there who this very day will be praying for relief financially and finding a way to meet their needs and maybe even have a goal of financial freedom?
I know there are. Yeah.
Do you believe that it is possible that we are going to meet them under different circumstances on a daily basis by getting out of our comfort zone? In other words, are we willing to live for something, not die? This doesn't cost us our life. That we will live for the ability to get in front of, whether that is stepping out of our comfort zone on the phone, on a Zoom call, on an invitation to take a look at something that has dramatically impacted our lives, that we could offer it to them for the same reasons we have joined it.
Yes. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is get out there and help others.
That is exactly what our goal should be. And one of my thoughts is, I love my spouse. I love my children and my grandchildren. If I could leave a legacy of good health for them, longevity with the ability to enjoy their lives more fully, and I could leave a legacy of maybe an income stream that would aid them in their goals financially for them to join me in, would I truly be blessing their lives? And do I believe it enough to take the arrows from especially loved ones who I'm inviting to do something, one of those again, or whatever they're going to say to me, to get out of my comfort zone and not worry about that, because it's not about me, it's about them. Could I then commit, because my how is big enough, my how is them. I am taking them behind me into battle. We often, as we go out the door, hear our spouse say, we'll go out and slay the dragon and bring home the food and sufficient money to keep the roof over our heads, right? Well, that's what we're doing. We're going out as an army, or as a warrior, and that is exactly what we've called ourselves. The wellness warriors is so correct, to actually bring those blessings to those we love most, which are our own family, loved ones, and our friends, and every person out there who will become our friend. We just haven't met them yet. And they don't know what we have, and they don't know what they don't know until we're brave enough to step out of our comfort zone and share an invitation. People like to be invited. And I think we can inspire them too with inspired questions. And I'm going to suggest that those questions will come to mind if our why is big enough. If we know that we have right on our side, a righteous cause that we want to invite them to be part of, whether it's just for their health or for their income. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely.
So, Robert, I know I've taken more than my share of the time. I will divert to you to bring this to a close with a challenge.
First of all, I love that story. One invitation is to, if you want to make a note of this, go to Amazon and look up Andy Andrews, the Traveler, if you will. Andy Andrews, the Traveler, and you'll find that experience that Jim was so eloquently sharing from his heart is one of those experiences that this character in the book was privy to experience. So it's a powerful read, and it'll strengthen you as well. Thank you, Jim. And also thanks, Donna. My challenge for this week is to step into your warrior self, and the conversations you're having with loved ones, spouse, definitely with your prospective customers, partners, is to, I'm calling it dig down three levels, meaning whoever we're engaging with this week, commit to going down 3 questions deep with who you're engaging with. I find it's so easy. So often enough, our fallback is one question, then they may give you some type of answer, and then we go into our agenda. My point is break out of that mold, if you will, and when they answer a given question, then dig deeper. Remember, we learned 3 beautiful tools. Tell me more. I heard you say this. Can you tell me more about that? So, my challenge for the week is to dig deeper with our prospective customers and builders, and definitely our loved ones as well. And I'd love to get some shares about that challenge later in the week when we get back together. So that's the challenge. And Jim, I love your, one of the things that we want to remind you about is one of our future topics will be storytelling. And there are some really fun tools around how to even be a more masterful and effective storyteller, if you will. And we'll go into that. Next week is the power of visualization, putting it out there. That being said, that's our challenge for the week. I'd love to get a closing thought from Donna. Comment for this coming week.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing this participating in this challenge. I think you're right. I think so often we ask one question, maybe 2, and then we move on. And I like the idea of digging deeper and getting more of a connection with the people that we're speaking with. So
I love it.
And putting my family in behind me as I head to the front lines is.
And they're your fuel as well, and your inspiration.
Yes.
Thank you, Donna. Yes. I'm excited to debrief on that on Friday. So Jim, closing thought here.
The uniqueness of asking it 3 deep and then simply coming back with a 4th question. If I had a way to help with whatever it was, and we're listening to their answers, which are usually, I want to lose the weight, I want to be more healthy, I want to, and we simply come back, if there were a way to actually help with that, would you join me? So the last question would be, would you join me on this journey of health, on this journey of making additional income to relieve that stress? Would you join me? People like to do one thing. They like to do a favor for you if you ask. And do you trust me enough that we'll do a 30-day experiment to show you that everything I've said, you're may answer exactly what you're looking for. So that's just my observation of how I would end that conversation after going 3 deep. If there were an answer, if there was an answer to that very thing. And that actually happened to me this week in a conversation with a good friend. He said, so what do you have for me? And I asked him, what are your goals? What is it that you want to do? He says, well, I've had a hip surgery and I've had a back surgery, but I need to lose some weight. I know about intermittent fasting. I've done some with that. And I said, you're going to love the match of what I have, you're going to absolutely fall in love with what it does for your body in rebuilding it and dropping those pesky pounds. Just that simple. And he says, then send me the information so I can get it here. And I'm going, wow. A 3-minute conversation because he pre-framed it. I've only got 3 to 5 minutes and then I've got an appointment. Tell me what it is you have. And I simply then, good, I'll tell you once I know, and there's your question, what's your goal? What would you like to have happen? So onward and upward and out of our comfort zone. I love your dig 3 deep, and I will report on Friday on how that has worked this week with the people I talked to.
Sounds good, guys. And remember, charge the line. Remember, Chamberlain, one of the top reasons he succeeded in the army, raised their hands and surrender, was because of his and his men's, their passion. They stepped up and became warriors, and they were like yelling and on fire. So the other soldiers just said, hey, you know, they've got something we don't. Let's put our guns down. So that's what we all are. We're warriors here. So thanks, guys. God bless. And people are praying for an answer. And let's provide the solution. Take care.
Awesome.
Thanks, Robert and Jim.
Goodbye.